Okay, hello. I'm going to be putting forward my second affirmative rebuttal today. And so basically what I'm going to be doing is just throwing up some disadvantages to the points that my opponent made. We're going to do four in a row and then we're going to be done. So the first point being that my opponent made was about the armored vehicles that they're very necessary in natural disaster situations. And I'm going to concede that is a benefit to having these armored vehicles, but at the same time, the benefit doesn't outweigh the risks of having them and the costs of owning them, because the fact that the National Guard has these same vehicles and they're no more than, generally about a half an hour out of any major city, they can do all the same things that the police are doing, and they have greater numbers, and they're better trained and equipped to deal with these situations. So yeah, I'm gonna have to say that police using these armored vehicles for natural disasters and whatnot, it doesn't really help the situation. It's not really gonna make a difference in the grand scheme of things, and they just cost too much money to maintain for these small police departments. Second point being approachable police. This goes in regards to the military garb I said would be okay for police to have, and I still stand by that. I think 99% of the time, these officers are going to be wearing their beat clothing, so they're going to have, their officer badge and whatnot. They're not wearing these military uniforms on their day-to-day job. They're only doing it in any type of insurrection or riot ordeal. So by saying that using these military fatigues would be making them less approachable in any ways, that's a good thing because you want police to be not approachable during a riot situation, whereas generally they're not wearing this stuff. It's only on certain occasions, so that point has to be nullified. The third point I want to make is that while I agree guns aren't the things killing people, they definitely give people a means to kill people, if that makes sense. Whereas there's really no point for police to have automatic weaponry or long rifles or anything like that. They have a sidearm, they have a pistol, and in most cases that should be enough. Now, on the off chance that they do need something a little bit more high powered, I would say that we definitely need to have officers trained with heavier weaponry that they can use and they can come in, and there has to be a certain amount of those for every single police department. So that's important. That's very important. My fourth and final point being about gunfire and guns and officers needing protection during a riot. 9 times out of 10, these riot vans are plenty enough protection. They occupy space, they're scary, they look scary, but they don't rip up the roads and they don't cost a fortune to maintain, whereas the armored vehicles do. So the riot vans can do all the same functions. They carry maybe even more police officers and transport more police officers than these armored vehicles do, but they cost a fraction. And that's very important because we don't need to be wasting money on these huge armored vehicles that really don't serve much of a purpose. And this segues into my opponent stated that in a riot situation, generally people aren't going to be uh, I'm sorry, people are going to be bringing firearms and they are going to be shooting at the police, which I have to go and disagree with because after a lot of research and common sense, to be totally honest, it seems like if you were to fire a gun at police in a riot situation, 10 times out of 10, every single time, they're going to move to the threat, they're going to use equal or greater force, and the person doing the shooting is probably going to be dead within the next minute or two. If not that, bringing a gun to a riot on top of assault is already a whole case of felonies. So if you get caught with a gun in a riot and you've been using it, you're going to jail for a long time, and nobody wants to do that. At the same time, if you shoot an officer, you're pretty much guaranteed dead every single time because they're going to push to you and they're going to eliminate you because you are a threat to them. That being said, these officers aren't roaming around in these vehicles, they're on foot. So any type of armored vehicle doesn't really offer much protection because of the fact that these officers aren't rolling around in the cars, they're on foot fighting people. They're not going to be in these vehicles and they don't need the protection from the vehicles because the vans do the same exact thing once the officer is outside on foot. Thank you for listening to my second affirmative rebuttal. It's been a good one.